So we're trimming the posts here, and then we got our laser level set up, which is just a laser that spins. It's rotary laser level, and it auto leveling, so you kind of set it close to level, and then the laser self levels itself, and then spinny poo. And then you have a reader you can attach to a stick or whatever. It'll read the laser, and all you do is you set the height you want. For me, it's the lowest post, and then you can just mark with the reader. You stick it on the post, the laser will read, and then I mark the top of the post where it needs to be, and then I'll cut the top off.
Right there. I
Okay.
can hold it here if you want to do your...
That's fine. So yeah, we set our reader to the right height. I mark the top of the post. You can take that off there. And then I just take my speed square and I mark all the way around. Got to be careful with this rough wood, because sometimes you'll have like a lump and then the square will pivot. And then we just cut that off.
Right on the line. It's like you know what you're doing. That might have been better for all of them. Oh,
Probably best. Alright, so you've seen there how I was getting these posts ready so that I can actually start building the structure here. This is a part 2 video. So we're actually going to build the shed this time. These here 2x10s were left over from, or actually I think they were 2x12s. I can't remember exactly, but anyways, they're left over from when I did the forms for my Quonset hut building. So they're got a bunch of concrete debris on them there, but they're still good boards, so I figured I'll use these as my beams for the building here. I had some leftover plywood, so I stitched it onto the seams here where I'm overlapping them, just to give it a little extra strength on the, the weakest point there. Alright, so when I'm nailing these beams together, it's a 2x10, so you're going to want, like I said before, you want about half the height in inches in nails. So for a 2x10, we want 5 nails, and then you want to go roughly every 16 inches, which this hammer is close, so I just use that as my spacer. And what I start is I'll stick 1 nail in on the end, then I flush it up at our 16-inch mark, stick 1 nail in, and then move it over, and I'll flush it up further down so the top is flushed again. And then you just work your way down, and you can kind of bend the boards accordingly to get your beams to line up. And then this is the middle one. So we cut our 14-12 pitch for the roof on opposing sides. Oh yeah, 4-12 pitch, yeah. On either side. So now that when the joists cross, they'll have a better area to sit on. Waiting on knots. Now that the posts were all leveled out, putting the joist on was no problem. I used a piece of plywood on the end just to keep it from tipping over until I had the common trusses put on. I'm writing the layout here on top before I put them up, just so that I have it all set up for putting the trusses on. I alternated so that they're gonna sandwich in the middle, so they're offset from each other either side. Double checking the measurements here before I start cutting the trusses. The first one here, I just had to mock it up to see how it was going to overlap so that I had my starting point there, and then I could measure from that starting point over to get the where the bird mouth would be for the bottom section of the truss. Just using the speed square here, pointing out there's a 4, meaning that lining up there is going to give me my 4-12 pitch. The second line doesn't matter so much, it was just more getting a squared off perpendicular line there at whatever size I wanted the bird mouth to be. And then just speeding up the process here by lining up all my trusses so that I could get them all cut to the same length at the same time. I'm just setting the bevel on my circular saw here to the angle, which I can't exactly remember what it was now thinking back, but I just had double checked it against my original piece there. So one thing to remember here when you're cutting these out is that I did use the oscillator to keep a nice clean flat area for maximum surface to surface contact, but I always use my first piece that I drew out as the template for every other one, just so that you don't get added variations every time if you were to keep using, like, say, the next piece. This part here was pretty simple since I had the layout already drawn there on the lower joist. It's just a matter of resting them there, and the bird mouth allowed it to sit quite nicely. Here I needed to add some pit run material in here because the clay, it had been quite wet, and the scaffolding was getting stuck constantly, so I just took a little bit of time here to add a little bit of material that doesn't soften up too much. I mean, I didn't compact it, but it was still a lot cleaner, a lot easier to work on than on top of the clay there. Now's probably a good time to point out too that this building was not engineered in any way. This is just me copying the designs from a few pole barns that I know of that have been up for quite a few years in the same area that I am, and they've had no issues. Using 2x6s as the trusses seems a little bit small, but the fact that those other barns have held up for many years now, I'm not too worried about it. The span between posts there was 12 feet, so the joists seem to hold up over that other span. So I ended up grabbing some of this darker pit run from another pit, just because the one I normally grab from was closed at the time, and I didn't really like it. It was pretty chunky there. You can see it had quite a few big rocks in it, but I needed some fill material, so it wasn't a huge deal. At this point in the project, the weather was starting to turn. I was getting lots of rain and frost in the morning. It was starting to cool down quite a bit too, so later in the year here. Yeah, just showing there that used just 3 nails on the bottom of each truss there to hold it in. There's my pattern for nailing the cross pieces. And I had thrown my layout on the top here as well. This was the center mark, so this was easier because I could just line one board on one side and the other on the other side. Sandwich them together. I probably mentioned this before, but those electric nail guns are such a lifesaver, not having to have hoses running around or a compressor running all the time, especially where I was working, being off grid here. I did have power, but just a lot easier to not have to worry about whether or not the sun was shining to make sure my compressor could stay up. And the compressors draw a fair amount of power. Here's me just cutting the ends off flush. I started with the circular saw, but it ended up being that the construction chainsaw was the way to go again. Here's me just using some 2x4s here to make some strapping now for the tin roof to attach to. I'm just throwing my layout on here so that I can just throw them up, and then this is how I can now center all my trusses up on the roof there, just by following the layout on the boards. As you can see, I also had made a spacer board there that I could space them from the peak down to the bottom, so following the length of the truss. I keep consistent spacing that way as well. Notice I threw up a few extra panels here. I hadn't built a proper array yet, so this was me throwing up panels in different places, just trying to get a little bit of power to run the other things I needed. At this point I had all my panels, but I just was working on what was necessary, and this pole shed needed to be up before winter so I could store a bunch of things under here. Hard to tell from this shot, but the tops there were quite frosty on the north face there, so things were a little bit slick in the morning there on the boards.
Is it doing pictures or is it just normally recording? I think so. Yeah.
And then this here, we just nothing fancy, just your run-of-the-mill. I'm not even actually sure what it was called, but strong ridge or something, roof tin. It's the cheapest economy type. Nothing fancy. No fancy colors or anything, just galvanized. Same thing. The screws you use are they're made to go for metal roofing, so they're kind of like a self-tapping. They just have a really pointy tip on them, and then a gasket under the flanged head. And they use like a hex bolt style head on them, so you can get a good amount of torque into them. You screw these panels down into the strapping, and it allows for nice uniform fastening all the way across. And then I threw the little ridge cap on the top there as well.
Ready?
Here's our finished product. This pole shed's been up for quite a few years now, probably going on 2.5, maybe almost 3 years now, and I've had no issues. I've had a few trees fall on it even there, and it's still held up pretty good. So this one's very simple construction, but it's more utilitarian than anything. So we managed to get that done before winter, and that's basically what I needed. You can tell here the pond was frozen or starting to freeze over quite a bit here. Thanks for watching.